Hello everybody, welcome back to GallupBuilt. I want to thank you all for stopping by and checking out this video. In this episode, I'm going to be changing out the rear differential unit on a Ford Escape. And I work a little bit on this blue one right here. I work on the dash a bit and the fuel lines. So thank you all for stopping by and checking out this video. I hope you enjoy it. Michael and I have made it to the shop for the day. And look what we have here. There's a computer-controlled clutch right there. That's what's giving us the problem in this Escape right here. So when we're backing it up and turning it, it starts making a weird clunking sound, and it feels like you're running over something. It's actually this clutch right here in the differential. And it was a lot cheaper to just buy a whole rear end than to buy that clutch and put it together like that. So one was ordered, and it looks like it's here now. So that lets me know what I'm doing today. I had to put a lift down and reposition these. I put them under here on the edge. There's a little pinch weld right here, and this cover separates it so I can feel it with my hand. That pinch weld right there. I had to take it off the cradle in the bottom because I'm going to be removing the cradle. So with the pinch weld right here, structurally, that pinch right here holds all of this. So this whole area right here, all the way up to there, is where the pressure is being dispersed as it's holding that up right there. And I only had to move it because the lift was sitting on the cradle on one point there and one point there. I'm gonna have to remove that whole cradle in order to get this differential or this rear end out. Before this goes all the way up, I'm gonna start with removing the wheels in the back. Both of them are gonna come off. These chrome covers that Ford likes to put on their lugs makes everything a little bit harder. I had to pound these on. Clear these little chrome covers to get these off of here. Although I still had to pound it a bit. The 19 is the one I put on this one, and I pounded them all the way on. I went through all 5 of them before I even put it on this, so hopefully none of them rotate on the lug. Nice. Okay, I've got the wheels off. So now I'm going to start disassembling the brakes, get the rotors off so I can get everything out that I need to. I have to remove the springs and release the tension on these. I have to pull the CVs out of there, and then we have to start getting this cradle out of here. I also need to get this drive shaft off of here. Do not forget the nut that holds the CV to the knuckle. With the caliper brackets out of the way, this rotor will come off now. It's a little rusted, but there's no screw that holds it on. On these Fords, I usually encounter a really big Phillips head screw in the middle of one of these areas here. A couple of smacks with the rubber mallet, and it takes care of this rust problem that we have right here. Yeah, it's a little rusty. I'll clean it off when I'm putting it back together. Now I've got them both off. We'll see what's next. After removing the caliper bracket, I was able to put this jack stand underneath the control arm that's got the tension from the spring on it, and I was able to remove this bolt which holds the control arm to the knuckle. And once I was able to do that, I lowered this, and now I am able to get this spring out of the pocket. So with this out of the way, it'll make things a lot easier. We've got the other side taken out, so now all we do is push this control arm down and the spring falls out. Okay, after I loosened this upper control arm bolt and I took off the bolt that holds the shock absorber to the knuckle right here, this is where the upper control arm was. I also loosened this lower control arm bolt, and then this one right here was able to move around, and it's moving on that bushing right there, so it's okay. Once I was able to take the shock absorber off and the 3 points that hold it on, which is here, here, and here, then I was able to slide this out far enough to get this CV out of here. So once the CV was out of here, now I'm going to tie this up a bit so it doesn't hang there, so it doesn't put too much pressure on that bushing up there. I've got 4 of these bolts out, and I've got one more right there. I've got 2 left. I had to put this in neutral and spin the drive shaft real quick. Okay, I put it in neutral, I moved it. Now I put it back in park. Now I have access to these two. Mama Bear brought us some cupcakes and she brought us some hot dogs. We already went through all of them, but Michael and I are eating lunch right now. He's still working on things around here in the shop, but he's working on this side of it now. And I've got this separated now from the car, so you can see that this whole cradle, I don't want to be shaking it, but this whole cradle is just sitting on these two jack stands. As soon as I'm done eating, I'm gonna unclip a couple of lines. I've got a couple like right in here that need to come off of here, and then I'm gonna lower this a little bit more and raise the car up a bit so I can get to work on that differential. Okay, I've got it separated fully, so now I just gotta move it out of the way, work on it. Okay, I've got it out from under the car. Time to change out this differential right here. So I've got all the bolts out, so I can take these CVs out and hope they don't leak. And once I get these CVs out of here, I can get this. So this is all free to come out now. Alright, this little piece here is broken, so we're going to change all this out for this one. I was getting ready to add some fluid and the Torx bit broke in here. And I broke the drill bit now. Okay, got it in, got it bolted up. I'm gonna worry about all of this tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. I've made it back to the shop and I'm gonna be back on this one today. Today I'm gonna hook everything back up. I'm gonna hook all the control arms back up to the knuckle, and then I'm gonna hook the brakes back up, and then I'm gonna see how it runs. When I took off yesterday, I got these 4 bolts, and there's 2 of these, one here, one across, and the other one is right there, and one across. So now it's secured back to the vehicle. So right now I'm gonna put the springs back in and put all this back together. Same with this side. Yesterday we also got measurements for the frame width requirement on this right here, so that's gonna be kind of cool. I think we're gonna try to fit one of these under the 67. So now we will reverse the sequence of bags here, and then we'll put this back together. So I'm gonna start with the drive shaft bolts. I was worried about lining this part up, but as I put the drive shaft into here in the yoke, the markings look like it lined up already. So these bolt holes are already lined up. Nice. The top one is bolted in. I have not tightened it all the way, but I've got it to sit directly on it. And I'm gonna wait till I put the spring in, and I'm gonna compress it to ride height, and then I'm gonna tighten everything. I'm gonna put this one in right now. I've got the driver's side in, so I'm gonna put this one in right now. I've got a lot of this put back together, and I decided against putting the sway bar end links in right now. I figured I would just loosen that on top and then slide them in the bottom and tighten them up that way. So right now, I'm kind of dealing with this here while it's pressurized by the spring. So I'm using a combination of this transmission jack stand. I'm using a combination of this jack stand right here and the lift, and I'm putting this back together. So this moves pretty good. The spring goes out, the spring will go in pretty easy. So I just set it in the pocket correctly, meaning this part of the end part of the spring goes where it's supposed to go. I've got this little rubber bushing up here, and now all I will do is raise this up, and then as I'm raising it up, it'll slowly start to seat in this, because in order for this to move back, it has to go up. So it pivots on this, and this has to go up pretty far. So I gotta move it on up. I've got everything plugged back in and going where it needs to go. So now I'm gonna put on this caliper bracket, and before I bolt that on, I have to slide the rotor back on. Okay, when I pulled out these calipers, they were sitting like perfectly with the brake pads in there. And when I had this up in the air, in order to get the drive shaft bolts on top of the drive shaft, I had to start it and put it in neutral. To get into neutral, I had to push the brake just a little bit, and that made this pop out a little bit as well. Normally on brakes, you would just put a clamp on here and push it back, but on this car, and a lot of other rides now, actually, you see those two little notches right there? Normally, I'll use the pliers, and I'll put a needle nose like that, and then all you do is you turn it this way. Okay, I've got it all put back together. Everything is tightened down correctly, plugged in, and hooked up. So now, I gotta put the wheels on. Trying to see if this thing runs all right. Sounds pretty good. It's not all creaking and stuff. So far, it backed up pretty good. No problems. Sounds a lot better going forward, but that wasn't really the main problem. The main problem was the sound that it was making when I was backing up and turning. So I'm going to get to that here in a bit when I get to a spot that I can do that at. So the rear end sounds fine, but all those lugs that I had to kind of cut apart just to get them off of here, I took those off, and then I had to put new lugs on. So the new lugs that went on, I torqued them down, but it looks like the stud is still there, and all 5 of the lugs popped off. All the studs are still there. That's weird. Yeah, I torqued it down with the Milwaukee too. Good morning, everybody. I just got here to the shop, and I'm not sure what I'm working on today, but I'm gonna figure that out, and I'm gonna work on it. I know I've got a few things on the list. I got a van outside that needs a new transmission. I'm gonna take it for another test drive to make extra sure. And we've got a van in the back that's got a transmission, so that's a lot of work. I'm gonna double check before I even get to that. And I've got the throttle body on the other Mustang, and oh yeah, the gray Mustang. A lot of stuff to put together. Engine on the green one. Oh yeah, I got a few things to do. I'm gonna change out the steering wheel right here. I'm gonna mount that to the bumper, and I'm gonna work on these two. Got some fuel lines right here. Those need to go underneath. I'm gonna change the steering wheel out on here. This is the original steering wheel from 1967. So we're gonna start by taking off the horn button. And on these ones, if you push in just a little bit and turn it counterclockwise, it should pop out. There's a spring in here, so be careful it doesn't shoot you in the eye. This is what it looks like under here, and these little prong or flaps, they'll slide into here, and then they turn into there. That's what holds it in. Now I can pull this out. I do have to admit, this has got to be one of the coolest horn buttons I've ever seen, though. Kind of cool. I got this box off the shelf for the blue 67 coupe. This one right here, because we've got a 67 fastback outside. This is what I'm looking for. These are for the steering wheel. This one and this one. I started on this a little earlier, but I didn't like the way the black came out on the dash, so I wet sanded it real quick, and I'm going to hit that up before I take off today. With the right tools, this is always not so bad. So the steering wheel is loose. Nice. As I was getting to the steering wheel, I was looking at the dash a lot closer, and I really didn't like the orange peel that was happening in a couple of spots. And it was like right here mainly, and a little bit going that way, and then I seen some right here. So sitting in the vehicle, that's where you're going to notice all of the orange peel. So instead of just wet sanding those spots, I wet sanded the whole thing, and I'm going to respray it right now. All right, now it doesn't look too bad. So this fuel line is confusing me a bit. That's how it came out of the box. This is how they shipped him, with a bend in it. And it's two pieces on this 1967 fuel line. There's a hole right there and a hole right here. This part of this line goes through that hole right there. So the rest of this goes all up in here. Let's see, shall we? Looks like it goes through that hole right there. Let me see. So we've got some of that. Let's clear that. Okay. So now that's there. Now let's ensure that it comes out this side. We got to clean these fuel lines out. Okay, looks like it's, oh, I probably should have put it inside that brake line, huh? Yeah, I'll put it inside that brake line right there. So the fuel line comes out right here where it's supposed to. And then that runs along this rail all the way through. And then it runs through here. And this is where I'll connect it to the next piece. And then the next piece runs to the tank. All right, everybody, that is going to be it for this video. I want to thank you all once again for stopping by and checking it out. I appreciate y'all hanging out and seeing what I've got going on here at the shop. I hope y'all have an awesome rest of your day, and be careful whatever you're working on. Later.